So this is an update that I've been looking out for. Back in the spring, we first reported on this story where there was a teacher who had a sign in her classroom, and the sign read, "Everyone is welcome here," and it had different shades of skin color of hand with hands, and I think hearts were in the middle. So just making the point that everyone is welcome here. And the principal actually came and asked her to take the sign down, and the answer that the principal gave as to why it wasn't strong. He backed up a policy that said that this is a person, this sign reflects a personal opinion, and it caused a huge disruption, a bit of a contentious school board meeting, and the students were showing support for the teacher who has left the district. And I said back then in the spring, the district, the school board, they're not going to change the policy. They're not going to do that just yet, because they don't want to give the impression to the community that if you put a lot of pressure on the school board, then you can get them to change their mind on the policy. So they weathered the storm throughout the spring. I'm sure a lot of people in this community were not happy with the school board because of the way this went down. But now, as I knew it, this is the way school boards work. They rode out the rest of the year. Of course, people were not happy with them, but they rode it out. And then in the summer, you come up with something to address the situation. That's the way it works. So here we go. West Ada to adopt classroom display policy after teacher's sign was asked to be removed. Here we go. West Ada School District passed a new policy at a board meeting last night regarding visual displays in school. Now, this comes after they asked the teacher to remove a sign that says everyone is welcome from her class last year. The visual policy, check this out. And I'm going to explain to you what they're doing, and you can probably see it too. The visual policy says, for the purposes of this policy, content neutral refers to displays, images, or materials. See, this is what they want. If it's going to be on a teacher's wall, they want it to be content neutral. And this is what this means. Displays, images, or materials that are directly related to the approved curriculum, school operations, or student achievement. Displays may not, here it is right here, may not promote or oppose any political, ideological, religious, or here it is right here. This is it right here. Or socially contentious position. Now you can tell the board they got with some lawyers to figure out how do we cover how do we address X? How do we address Y? How do we address Z? How do we address it? And it's kind of one of those things, like you know it when you see it. You can't really put it into words. So they got with the lawyer, and the lawyer came up with this: a socially contentious position. And I know what you're saying. You're saying, well, what does that mean? Exactly. Exactly. So now, and the board, they didn't have this in place when it happened this past spring, but now they have this here in the policy. It's a socially contentious position, and it's and whether you agree or disagree, that we're not here to address that, but I think the board, they did what they needed and wanted to do in this case. Like they needed to address the issue, and they put it off. um but they wanted to have flexibility in regards to policing. I guess you could say policing the things that teachers would decide to put on their walls. Now, here's the other thing. There you don't we don't know. There's probably a teacher, because for every rule that's made, there's something that happened, something went down. So possibly there was a teacher before this teacher with the "everyone is welcome" sign that put something up and put the district in a tough position. So we don't know, but here we are. They've now have a new policy, and this is the part right here that they were really wanting to add in there, because that it kind of covers it. Again, like I said, you know it when you see it, if it's socially contentious. And is that going to please everybody when you apply this with socially contentious? No. But now the administration and the board, they can point to something like, this is why, and it's a little bit firmer, I guess you will, as opposed to telling a teacher that, well, saying everyone is welcome to your students. Well, that's a matter of personal opinion. That's weak. That's weak. There are also several criteria that visual displays must follow, along with an outline review process. Administrators will consider whether the display aligns with the district approved curriculum or programs, the impact on the educational environment, feedback or concerns. Okay, so all of that, administrators don't have time for that. They don't have time for that. Now, you never know. There may come a point when somebody complains or tries to make a point, and eventually it's gonna get to the point where anything a teacher wants to put up, it has to be approved by administration, or it has to have a stamp by administration, which would be a sad place to be, because teachers they deserve to have the flexibility to put whatever they want on their walls, to reinforce their content, to build their class community. They should be allowed and trusted to do that in a professional manner. They just should. So we'll continue. We'll continue to, well, here's some examples. Accepted displays: official state flag, the current flag of the United States, learning aids used in class approved curriculum, such as periodic tables and math equations, and the motion passed 3-1 in a board meeting. So we will definitely keep an eye on this as things change, but this is something that I was definitely looking forward to. And there you have it. This is the district's response to the teacher being asked to remove that "everyone is welcome" sign.